What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. I started this channel to discuss all things Frank Zappa. I've expanded that to include things that fall under his concept of the big note. I'm going to tighten my headband during Extra Rush during Jerry's guitar solo. Nobody will give me a ride to the Grateful Dead concert. Teenage Wind, You Are What You Is. Dead references. Therefore, we can do the Dead. I've already done a whole bunch of Dead, including I recently did the 36 Dick's Picks releases, all of which are complete shows or compilations of shows that sort of feel like a complete show from throughout the 3 decades that the Dead were around. Or I guess 4 decades if you count 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. But anyways, I'm now going to do Dave's Picks, which is a release series that started back in 2012. Limited edition releases, almost all of them. I'm not sure you can buy them still through dead.net, but they are out there either on Amazon or on I'm pretty sure you can buy them elsewhere on the internet, and you can definitely stream most of them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to review each one. I think there's more than 40 now. An awesome Family Dog shows from, I think, 69 or 68 just got released in the most recent one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do them in order, starting with number 1, this video, and then I'm going to rank them as I proceed. So after I discuss one, I will tell you where 1 falls in the rankings. And then next week, I'm going to do 2, and then I will rank those. 3, I will rank the 3. So the list will grow as I go on. Going back and visiting the Dick's Picks was, I think, helped conceptualize further what I like about the Dead and what I don't. And so I'm really interested to do this way. Plus, I think when I get to the rankings at the end, I can spend more time justifying why something is better than the other, which is where I find the interesting part of this. So anyways, I will say that I think there's over 40 now. I've heard all of them at least once. I am going to revisit each one of them before I review it. I've heard a handful of them more than once, and I've heard maybe another handful, maybe close to a third of them many, many, many times. And I am not familiar with all of the actual Dave's Picks releases, but I'm familiar with all the shows that have been released. For example, I did actually track down Dave's Picks 1 for this review, but I'm familiar with it because I have a copy of the show on cassette, and then I eventually burned it onto a CD. But that's what I'm familiar with. And I'm going to assume, let's talk about the show, and I'll get to that right now. So anyways, Dave's Picks number 1. May 25th, 1977 is the show. This was released in February of 2012. 3 CDs, no bonus tracks on here, just the complete show. It's a 77 show, and it's a May 77 show. So, and it's a good show. I'm no complaints here. But, and I was trying to think of the best way to sort of how I ultimately feel about this release. Let's imagine that you have friends that are coming into town, a friend, a couple, whatever, and they're coming to visit you in whatever city you live in. And they're like, we want to go to the best restaurant in town. And you're like, okay, let me think about that. My favorite versus the best, whatever. And you pick a restaurant. Let's, for the sake of this argument, call this restaurant May 1977. And you tell other people, you're like, hey man, my friends are coming into town. I'm going to take them to May 1977. And everybody's like, that is an excellent choice. Some people are like, well, I technically like this restaurant a little bit better, but you can't go wrong with May 1977. That is an excellent restaurant. So you take them to May 1977. Excellent choice, right? You get there and your friends are like, hey, why don't you pick for us? You pick the food. You know this restaurant better than we do. Pick what the food is. And you look at the menu, and there are things on this menu that you really can't get other places. Things they do with seafood, or there's a special appetizer, or there are things that you can't find elsewhere. That's not what you order. You order the food that you can find in other places. It's great food, no complaints. This is May 1977. These may possibly be the best versions of this steak or these vegetables or whatever. But you're not picking the stuff on the menu that is truly unique to May 1977. You're picking the stuff that, yes, you can find elsewhere. These are just really solid versions because of where it is. That's how I feel about this release. This is a solid release. This is a great release. However, if you had the entire every May 1977 show at your availability from which to choose from to eat or dine on or enjoy, this would probably be not the one thing that stands out as like truly unique to May 1977. So I hope that makes sense. Still, it's a good release. First CD is almost all is the entirety of the first set. Listening to the Dave picks, there is a lot of time between songs on the actual, I think it's a soundboard recording, but on the tape version, the one that would circulate among bootleggers. And so there is a distinct lack of momentum almost up through like the first six songs when you're actually listening to the way it was played in real time. Obviously, the Dave's Picks release cuts out a lot of that, so you don't have those like, what are they doing? There's 2 minutes of relative silence. And so there's a little more momentum. But I would say it takes the first set about halfway through before it really starts to catch fire and become a little more like engaging. But this is what you get. You get a Mississippi half step, still a pretty good Mississippi half step. He's starting to like push that ending jam towards like sugary type levels. There are better Mississippi half steps from 77, but still it's a good strong opening. But then we get that point where like the song finishes and there's just way too much time between songs. But they're good songs. You get a Jack Straw, They Love Each Other, Mexicali Blues, Peggy O, a Cassidy. Loser comes next. That for me is when I think, maybe because I really like Loser, when things start to get a little bit better. The Lazy Lightning Supplication is a really good solid dose of energy. Brown Eyed Woman is always good. And then A Promised Land to close. Nothing truly spectacular. The energy towards the end is much stronger than in the beginning, but a solid, well played, good first set. Second set, disc 2 has the first part up through drums. You get a Scarlet Begonias, which is a pretty solid Scarlet Begonias. It starts to kind of pick up towards the end, but then it kind of quickly goes into Fire on the Mountain. Fire on the Mountain is pretty solid. Probably, I think it's the second jam that maybe it's one of the jams kind of catches fire a little stronger than the other ones. But again, it's a solid fire, maybe not something you write home about. Estimated Profit is pretty good. The He's Gone, the actual He's Gone itself seems kind of like, I don't know, a little too slow and a little too just like they're not in it, which I think a lot of He's Gones in 77 and even 78 are kind of definitely don't have that energy they would in 74 and earlier. But there's a nice sweet jam at the end of He's Gone, so it kind of redeems itself towards the end. That goes into 5.5 minutes of drums. And then we go into disc 3, which is the thing that elevates this to like maybe a little higher level, which is like, okay, the dessert of this meal, the entrees and the appetizers may not have been the best this restaurant has to offer, but now we're getting someplace with the dessert. Disc 3 is almost perfect. You get a 15-minute other one, which has moments that sound like the other one, goes into a lot jazzier flavors of the other one, has parts that almost sound like playing in the band, like we've like even lost track of where we were and now we're in like playing territory. Right 15 minutes on, right towards the end of this 15 minutes, everything starts to break down and it's just Jerry playing like just messing around with like chords and finger picking and playing these beautiful little short little melodies that he's making up. Very reminiscent of the Dick's Picks release where they do space and then they go into That Would Be Something, the Paul McCartney thing, and Jerry's just kind of playing that. I think it's maybe solo by himself, nobody else is playing anything, but it has that feel where maybe Jerry's going to go into like something like weird and random and just him on the guitar. But he goes into Wharf Rat. But once you realize we're definitely going into Wharf Rat, Jerry's still kind of messing around a little. It's not a solid Wharf Rat. It's kind of a jazzier Wharf Rat. But then we get into Wharf Rat proper. That's a really solid Wharf Rat. Then after Wharf Rat, they go back into the other one. And it's a hard, like, feels like, oh, we're back in the other one. Dun, 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 dun. So we get a solid other one. We go back into that for like, what, about 4 minutes. Then we go into the wheel. And the 76, 77 wheels, man, just the time Jerry would take to get to the song, just the way it seems like there's just so many things going on with like the grooves and the rhythms. And it's just a perfectly developed wheel that by the time you drop into like the lyrics, it's just like so perfect. Wheel into Miracle was probably the bane of my existence the times I was seeing the Dead, late 80s and the early 90s. But this is just the Wheel at its best, and it doesn't go into Miracle, which is a good thing. But it does go into Around and Around, which is a fun round around, a long around around. They jam it out pretty nice. And then you get a Johnny Be Good as a encore. So a solid show. The best bet is without the best part is without a doubt disc 3. If you only check out part of this, I would seek out the other one, into Warfrat, back into the other one, into the Wheel, and even the Around and Around is fun. Good, solid, 45 minutes of music right there. Really good sort of post-drum second half of the second set. And so, yeah, and where would I rank this? Well, right now, guess what? This is ranked at number 1, people. This is my number 1 favorite Dave's picks so far. The sound is good, at least it is on the tape I have. I think the Dave's pick sound was pretty decent also. But yeah, a solid May 1977 show. Again, it's May 1977, so the Dead are at the sort of at peak form at this point, at least as far as the Keith years go, I think. May 74 maybe. I would put 74 against 77. I would battle those out. Not sure who would win, but you can't go wrong with 77. And again, solid show. Not sure it's going to hang on to number 1 for very long because I can imagine stuff being better. But the best part is that second half of the second set. But that's it. If you've checked this out or you do check it out, let me know your thoughts on it, why I'm wrong, what I missed, what I should pay more attention to, all that kind of stuff. And that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, like, comment. Listen to more music because music is the best. All right. Peace, y'all. Thanks for watching. See you next time.